So, good morning, welcome back to my morning cup of coffee. I'm Kristen Forster. Now, some of you may have asked the question, I'm sure you have, how do I maintain my self? And of course, the answer is this kind of cup of coffee. This is actually less than a single calorie, which is pretty impressive. Although to kind of get that sort of health benefit from coffee, you do have to take it kind of like an episode of EastEnders, by which I mean it's kind of dark and bitter. Obviously, you start adding cream and sugar, start building up. I actually read the statistic somewhere, or it's a fact rather than a statistic, that if you order a Starbucks Venti, big, bucket size, a frappuccino, is it caramel frappuccino latte? Well, who knows how those things go. It actually has 90 grams of sugar in it. But that's more calories than you get out of a Big Mac. So to be honest, this morning I'm seriously dieting. This is my secret, serious dieting. And I'm being so virtuous, I've got a little bit of an opportunity to supplement it with a custard cream, which makes it even better. Now, some of you will be asking, quite sensibly, get on with it. That's a statement rather than a question, isn't it? So in 1936, my dad tells me that his earliest memory from all of his life, in 1936, so he'd have been about 3 years old, was watching Crystal Palace burn down. So to be honest, I've always wondered what on earth my grandparents were doing letting him play with matches when he was going to visit the Great Exhibition, but I guess there are questions I'll never find the answers to. So 1936 was a really momentous year for my dad. It's also a terrible year for global history, because it's the year that stress was invented. I say invented, you know what I mean, by a Hungarian endocrinologist who discovered the relationship of the kind of the hormones produced in the adrenal glands with the phenomena that we refer to now as stress. So before 1936, nobody got stressed at all. It's got a lot to answer for, to be honest. Because Jesus caveats a lot of his teaching with that little phrase, fear not. It's interesting because the Bible actually uses the phrase fear not 365 times. You use a concordance and look it up. Old and New Testament, add them all together, which is a fear not for every single day of the year. There's always an opportunity to be anxious. Don't be anxious for tomorrow, says Jesus. But there's an interesting kind of tension, which is that it was discovered by Hans Selye, the Hungarian who discovered the relationships and coined the term stress. He actually broke stress into three components. He said that, look, there's good stress, eustress, he called it. There's distress, that's bad stress, what we normally mean by stress. And there's just kind of everyday stress. And in many ways, stress is just a part of life. It's the thing that engages me. I want to achieve something for it. And actually, that's very biblical too. You know, that actually in creation, mankind was given a need and a desire to overcome. So right there in Genesis 1, you know, it says that male and female he created them, and God made them in his own image, male and female he created them. It said, be fruitful and multiply, fill up the earth, and have dominion over it. And the word for dominion implies that there's a challenge, you see. So I wake up and there's something I want to achieve, but there's a challenge to be overcome. And actually, when we and that's the eustress. It's stress that's good for us, but it's good for us when we kind of get through it. You know, we accomplish something in the day towards our goals. And actually, modern psychologists tell us that modern well-being theory tells us that you cannot have a fulfilled life without good copious amounts of eustress, stress that actually produces a kind of hey, I did it. And so there is something. The problem really is that in the modern world, actually we're surrounded by a media that feeds to us all of the unhappiness and all of the problems all over the world, and there's something in us that says it must be my responsibility. I've got to own it, and so actually, whereas what's good for us and healthy for us is to want and to desire to move towards something. It's part of our God-likeness. And it says, but there's an obstacle in the way. So I find a way and I overcome the obstacle. And then I cheer and I say, yes, I did it. I overcame that problem. and that story of how I overcame it becomes part of my identity. And that builds together for a good life. but actually we own so much that we never actually get the opportunity to settle those things. And that's where stress becomes distress, becomes something that drains our bodies. And Jesus gives us the clues in the Sermon on the Mount. We touched on this a few weeks ago, and he makes comparisons between the good and the evil eye, the generous eye and the mean eye. That there's something to do with the way we frame the world. And I always love the way Jesus says, don't be anxious, consider the birds. Well, there's a sneaky double meaning there. Because actually considering nature is one of the things that tends to lift stress. So he's kind of almost obliquely kind of got us to start thinking about something that's actually very soothing to us. But then he said, think a bit deeper, go a bit further, start to frame a story that frames your stress in a way that you can manage it. Because God cares for them, he provides for them, and then you start to focus on, oh yeah, so actually what is my life about? What do I really care about? And actually it's not all of those things that go with my work. And so it's a kind of a genius little moment that Jesus puts in there. But you add it all together. Scripture recognises we need encouragement every single day, 365 times. Don't be stressed, don't be stressed. He gives us the clues, try and reframe it, focus on the things that actually are the Lord's provision around you. You put those things together and suddenly we've got a way of managing stress, and when we can manage stress, it's actually very good for us. You couldn't have life in all its fullness without things to have overcome. You get to Revelation, it's the overcomers that are the pillars within the new temple, i.e. the church stroke kingdom that Jesus is building. So my thoughts this morning as we kind of finish our coffee is I'm going to have a chocolate bourbon as we finish. Only 1 calorie, I deserve it. What was my point? My final kind of point as we're coming kind of to the completion of this is but there's a huge amount that Jesus wants to speak into us, and it's something that is ongoing. We need to hear that encouragement, and part of the encouragement is to learn to frame the world in such a way that actually stress becomes manageable. It becomes a step on a journey. As that journey kind of gets written into us, becomes part of our identity. It becomes part of what we draw on to say, do you know what? I've lived a really good life. So let's make the most of it. Let's not stress. Don't let stress get on top of you. Turn it into an opportunity to write part of your story and have an adventure with the Lord. I'll leave you the rest of the day to get on with it while I enjoy the lack of calories in this coffee, in this bourbon biscuit. See you next time.